Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is At the Helm Sports. I am your host, Derek Helm. Thank you for joining me for episode 123. Please be sure to follow and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave those 5-star reviews would be greatly appreciated. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Hit that like button down in the comment section. Very simple. Give me your winner this week. Pretty hard to pick winners this year, so, tell me who you got, because you're probably doing better than I am. But anyways, we're going to be diving into the 2024 Valero Texas Open. Obviously, it's the last tournament before the Masters, so we had to get the crew in here and break this one down before we head into the first major of the year. But joining me tonight, we have Dave Utnick. Dave, how we doing?
Good, guys. How are you?
And Mike Carpanini. What's up, Mike?
Boys, how are you now?
Really leaning into the casual corner there. We got the robe ready to go. I want to hear some very casual takes.
Super casual.
Fitz might be joining us and messing up all the technologies and robot dicks and all that good stuff, but we'll see what happens. Quickly, we can recap last week, Houston Open. Honestly, probably one of the least watched tournaments that I've had all year. I really didn't watch too much. I watched some of the opening round, but caught up a little bit, was checking in on Sunday, and obviously Jaeger came away with it. I was nowhere near him from a betting standpoint, and really it really sucked last week from a DraftKings standpoint because A, I faded Scotty Scheffler, so we can get into what your guys' thoughts of that are. But B, one of the last cuts I made Wednesday night was Jaeger. So really didn't work out very well from that standpoint. Obviously we had some guys that played well. Scotty just missing that putt at the end. Obviously, he's done that quite often lately, but not enough to where it's cost him wins. But this time he couldn't pull it away. Still second place finish. The guy is absolutely ridiculous. And Bhatia looked good. Finau was pretty good, but started missing putts. But what are you guys' thoughts on because we haven't talked in a while on Scotty's run, where he's at, and just how stupid was I for fading him last week, Dave?
I mean, you were very stupid for fading him last week, obviously. In a field like last week where he is so much better than his opponents, he's got to finish really bad to not pay off his price. And, he still finished with 107 points, third most last week. That paid off at, whatever salary he was. I didn't play much at all last week. But at this point, fading him at the Masters is a different conversation. We'll have that next week. But if you take out Rory and put him in this tournament, I mean, the field's a little bit better, but we'd be having the same conversation. I mean, how could you full fade Scotty in any tournament right now when he's coming top 5, top 7 at a minimum?
Yeah, I mean, really what it was, and it's sick to say, even with the result, if given the chance again, I probably would still do it. It was a combination of just 50% owned, and with the Wyndham news, I knew that it was going to put even more people on him. So it just, if it pays off, you're cutting out 50% of a tournament. So it only has to pay off once to pay off big. So it's just from a DraftKings standpoint, the guy's not going to win every tournament. Now, obviously, he's coming top 5 in every single one of them. But I do think that if maybe Finau could have made a couple more putts, maybe it's a little bit of a different story. But I still stand by the decision. I mean, obviously, the results were not there, and it is Scotty Scheffler. But I don't know, from a price standpoint and where you had to go, I think it still made sense. But Mike, what are your thoughts on just Scotty as a whole and the fade?
I mean, I called you out on the fade almost in real time.
So there's
that. I don't know how I said it last time we were on the show 1,000,000 years ago. Imagine if Scotty could putt. Like this is like, God, I would love to draw the parallel to Tiger, but you can't putt. Like it's, he's the best we're going to see right now and for a long time. But God, think about how good this could be. Everyone's going to look at the putt at 18, but let's not forget he also 3-putt from 6 feet on 18 on, what was that, Friday, I want to say. just make a 6-footer like a normal fucking PGA Tour pro. You win this by one shot, and the putt on 18 on Sunday doesn't even matter. Like, he could be so good. I don't know how anyone fades him at this point. You say, if he plays bad, you knock out half the field. If you don't have him, you're dead. So the other 50% of the people, if you don't have Scotty, you're out of the field. So I just don't know how you're full fading at this point or for the foreseeable future.
And when you're fading him also, it's what are you getting by fading him? Wyndham Clark, there was some concerns with. He did not play well. Sahith, came on at the end, but, didn't come anywhere near that. You had to go all the way down to Finau for a, true pivot. And he was 5th highest in pricing. I mean, it's a lot to give up. And, yeah, you could have balanced it out with the rest of your lineup. But at the end of the day, you need the guys that are going to win, be up top. There just wasn't that caliber of player to be, take out Scotty and insert Finau. I mean, I'm taking Scotty 100 times out of 100 between those two. Forget about salary there.
Yeah, no, really what it was is I loved Thigala last week, and I paired him with Finau. I paired him with Zalatoris, and I was just the two of them. I felt the upside of them were guys at the top compared to Scotty, and then dropping down significantly or having to dive into that 5K range kind of evened itself out. And like I said, I mean, I was the first to admit it was dumb. I mean, it's psychotic to do it, but in DraftKings, sometimes you just have to take those hard stances, and it only takes once to pay off, and it pays off huge. So, I lose plenty of money in normal weeks. So losing money last week is not any different. It's not a huge deal to me, and I think sometimes you just got to take those chances. What was it wrong? Sure, but at the end of the day, if it pays off that one time, then it pays off all the times you are wrong. So that's just part of the DraftKings game. Is sometimes you got to take chances. So that's really basically where I was coming from. And to make
You gotta
matters
own
even
it.
worse, oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's
like, that's all. Like, it's a thing that happened. Own it, and your logic is sound. I wouldn't have made the same decision, but I don't question you making that decision.
again, I'm gonna probably make that decision again in the future because it's just that's the way I've played DraftKings is contrarian, and it's sometimes it's gonna bite you in the ass, sometimes it's gonna pay off, but it is what it
I
is.
mean,
But
Scotty's becoming a contrarian problem, though. His
yeah,
floor is too damn
absolutely,
high,
absolutely, that's the problem.
and his ownership is just,
Yeah,
becoming outrageous. Where at some point you just bite the bullet and you're trying to go, 5v5s instead of 6v6.
yeah,
But
and
it's
next
becoming a
week you
real
said it.
problem.
Next week you said it. It's gonna be an interesting discussion because we're in a major, and obviously pricing has already come out. The pricing is definitely interesting with no 5Ks, but we'll get to there next week. But just to cap this, to make things even worse, every Monday when pricing comes out, I basically just make a dummy lineup and throw it into a couple contests. So the first 3 guys that I had in that lineup were Scotty, Jaeger, and Batia. And I scrapped that lineup. I never scrap that lineup. I'll put it in a $1 if I have to, but I never scrap it. I scrapped that entire lineup when I decided not to play Scotty. So that's what I get. But we move on to this week, and hopefully we can do a little bit better here. So we have the Valero Texas Open. Obviously, we're in Texas. The Oaks course at TPC San Antonio, 7,438 yard par 72. Designed by Greg Norman and Mike. Sergio Garcia helped design this one, so it's exciting. Maybe he can make up for destroying so many of our DraftKings lineups and bets by giving us a course where we can win some money on. Water comes into play on 3 holes. There are 58 bunkers. Some of them are really, really long and large, a lot of slopes, so there'll be awkward lies. Sand saves is probably going to come into play quite a bit. There's a ton of native areas, a lot of rocks, there's desert, there's trees. So really you don't have to worry too much about the water, only on a couple holes, but really got to stay away from these native areas and try not to land in the bunkers too much. Greens are Bermuda, but we have the POA overseed again. So similar to what we've been seeing the past couple weeks, there's 4 par 3s, 4 par 5s. The par 5s are the easiest holes on the course, but they're actually some of the hardest par fives on tour. So really, they're going to be strategy holes, whether guys are trying to score on it or just get away with par. Only the 14th hole is reachable in 2 by most. There's also 10 par fours. They're very long and difficult. So it's a difficult course. The front 9 usually plays more difficult than the back 9 does. And it actually plays as one of the 10 hardest courses on tour each year. Now, wind is a huge factor in that. Obviously, in Texas, we can see wind quite a bit here. I think it was back in, was it 2015? Like half the field got wiped out. So definitely want to keep an eye on the weather, keep an eye on the wind, and see if there's any wave advantages. Greens are definitely hard to hit here. They're undulating. We got runoffs, tight lies. So similar to last week, it's going to be hard to stick these greens with the heavy undulations, possible runoffs into bunkers or having some tight lies to chip out of. Really, what you want is good ball strikers, guys that aren't necessarily finding fairways, but can still put themselves in a good position for a second shot. The rough is not really that penal since they've moved it to right before the Masters. They just don't really want, we don't have long rough at Augusta, so kind of matching that the week before. So really missing fairways is not crazy. You just got to stay out of those native areas. And there can be some scoring here, especially if the wind is down. So taking a look at opportunities gained and then a little bit of sand saves and scrambling. So the cut the last 3 years has been +1, even +3. Connors won last year at -15, JJ Spawn -13, Spieth -18. So can be some scoring here, but it's a little bit of mix of scoring opportunities and scrambling and bogey avoidance. But Dave, what are you looking for this week in golfers?
Irons just in general. Approach is going to be really important here. The greens are small, but approaches from all areas are really going to kind of separate you from the rest of them. I mean, you covered a lot of it. Sand saves, you want to stay out of trouble wherever you can. And putting from off the green. I was just down in Texas. I learned the true meaning of the Texas wedge. Putting from anywhere that you can out there. Not sure if that's really a thing, but it was for me. It's been pretty wet out there. So, it was at least wet when I was down there. You want to see guys firing at pins anywhere you can. So guys that are in tune with the irons and guys that are just generally playing well. I don't know how much of a Masters tune-up it really is for some of the guys that are just trying to get their games right. But I want to be seeing players that are in form at this point, especially this close to the Masters.
Yeah, I could see some guys that really aren't in the best form playing well here. I just think it's a course that suits some of these guys. So we'll get into that, but I definitely agree. And from a standpoint of it just being a tune-up and guys not being here to win and just practicing for the Masters, I really don't think that's that much of a thing. Most of these guys that come here, they're coming here to play. And obviously, if you get off to a good start, you're not just gonna be like, well, the Masters is next week. Let me take my foot off the gas. So I think that's a little bit of an overblown narrative that some people go into. But Mike, what are your thoughts here? What are you looking for this week?
I mean, I look for the same thing every week, but when conditions get tough, I super look for ball strikers. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I am concerned with fairways hit in the regard of, the people who find a lot of fairways don't get super wild on their misses to, get in those kind of native areas. If you've got a guy who's not really a great fairway hitter, his wild ones are even wilder. So that brings the native area into play. So I want total driving because of the length. So it's not just about fairways hit. It's also how far you moving it, when you're hitting fairways. But yeah, ball striking tee to green, ball striking approach. Like this is a course built for my likes and dislikes.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. Not necessarily the fairways. These are some of the hardest fairways to hit on tour. So what I'm looking at actually is good drives gain, which kind of takes approach and driving into it, and you hit it on the head. You can't be wild off the tee here because then you're gonna find the trouble that's around here. But if you're constantly missing fairways, I don't think it matters at all. I mean, the rough is not penal, so as long as you're still in a good position for your second shot, I think it's okay. So I think that's why you really want to pay attention to that good drives gained this week. which takes into account driving and also your approach shot. But if we dive into the field, actually a pretty good one, especially for this tournament. At the very top, Rory McIlroy, 12,300. Pretty high price there. Obviously, he is not Scotty Scheffler recently. He really hasn't been playing well at all. And as far as ownership goes, I thought a lot of people just are off of Rory in general, but I've seen some sites having him upwards of 20, maybe even 25%, while others have him somewhere around 10%. So kind of hard to get a gauge, but Dave, what are you thinking? I mean, we can go into the top here, but start off with Rory. Do you think he's going to be that popular? Do you have interest in playing him?
I don't have much interest in playing him, especially when we're talking comparing, number one player in the field. You got to pay a, huge premium for him. You ran through the winners of this tournament. It's not normally elite guys. He didn't play here last year. He missed the cut in 2022. So, there's not much about what he's up to right now that gives me the utmost confidence in having to pay a premium for him. I'd like to see ownership as we get to tomorrow. If you're talking sub 10% Rory in this field, it interests me, but that would just be game theory. I mean, pricing or, just everything aside, he's not one of my favorite plays of the week.
Yeah, I agree. And I do want to see the ownership. I was thinking he was going to be somewhere around 10%. And if that was the case, I would probably take a stab. But otherwise, I really just I love Matsuyama this week. I love Oberg. Hideki's been on a great run. Obviously, won the Genesis, followed it up with a 12th place at API, 6th at the Players, gained strokes on approach and off the tee in 3 straight tournaments. Over the last 24 rounds, he's first in strokes gained around the green, 4th in strokes gained ball striking, 7th on approach, 4th in par 5 scoring, 12th in scrambling, all stuff that you want here. So really, really like where his game is at. And then Ludwig, played very well at the Players, gained 12.3 strokes tee to green. 8th place finish was his third top 10 of the year so far. So definitely got to like that. And then played college ball in Texas Tech. So should be pretty comfortable with Texas golf. So definitely like that. Long and straight. Definitely what you want here over the last 50 rounds. He's first in opportunities gained, 8th in par 5 scoring, 10th in ball striking, 13th in driving distance. So a lot of things that you like here. I have made an outright on him. Actually got a boost. So I got him at 17-1, which that number does not exist anywhere. So absolutely love that. But definitely going to be playing a lot of them, which probably means I can't get too much Rory. But Mike, what are you thinking here at the top?
I think Rory's mispriced, to be honest. Like, I think we have a different conversation if he's 11-1, but at 12-3, like he's and I'm a Rory fan. I just don't think that price is justified. I don't think he's worth 1,700 more than Decky and Aberg. Like, I'm going to land there in more lineups than I land in Rory.
Yeah, no, and I think a lot of people will. That's why I was kind of confused when I saw the site listing Rory at about 20. Is I just think most people are gonna click Matsuyama and Oberg, even if they were close in price. I still think people pick those two over him. So it's going to be interesting to see where people go. But Dave, you touched on Rory, but what are your thoughts of all these guys up here?
I mean, kind of like what you guys were saying, it's in terms of how they're playing right now, these guys are really close together in terms of recent results and should be closer in pricing. In terms of brand name, Rory is, every much of the $12,000 player in this pool here. I was pretty surprised to see the betting odds at having Aubert and Rory so close together. I think they were open around like 9 and 11-1. I thought there would be a much bigger gap between those guys. I like Hideki. I like Aubert this week. As we go down a little bit further, I like Max Homa and Matt Fitzpatrick also. I think I like living more in this low 10, high 9 range than really paying up for Rory. But a lot will have to do with ownership as we go through. But I think your lineups are just going to be more palatable and you can get more creative with more guys in this, in this lower tier here.
Yeah, I agree. And Homa and Fitzpatrick should be pretty low owned. Now, Homa scares me. His irons have been terrible lately. So that scares me a little bit. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get there on him. Fitz, I'm cool with, but I also want to play Spieth. You know, this is a course where he's won before. He's played very well, so he's looking like he's going to go overlooked with Connors right below him. So I think I'm going to play quite a bit of Spieth here. Mike, what are you thinking in this upper 9K range?
I'm also kind of intrigued by Homa and Fitzy. They've both been super hot and super cold. Like it's either up 10-ish or they're 65 or a miscut or whatever. But I just got feelings about both of them. I'll let you take all the speed you want. I'll go down to Connors again, ball striker. That's where I'm going to be in the nines. And, I think you can get multiples of them if you avoid Rory tops. So, you know, blending that balance. You can afford a couple of guys in this range.
Yeah, I'm gonna say another crazy thing here. I mean, it's not as crazy as Scotty, but I'm fading Corey Connors at Valero.
That's a
Thoughts?
choice.
I mean, if it's just strictly ownership, sure. But I mean, he's won twice here. He's
Yeah,
got
obviously he's played very well here.
2 top 20s his last 2 times out. I mean, he's been playing pretty solid golf in the calendar year here. I mean, nothing, no top 10s, but I mean,
We can have any debate we want about some, Corey Connors is fine. I'm a fan. He's still just a guy. It's not the same conversation as the hands down undisputed best
Oh, not
player
even
on the
close.
planet right now. So
yeah,
Not even close. Not even close, obviously. But it is scary when the guy's won twice in a short span and always plays well when he comes here and is going to be probably 25% owned because it's another guy that if he comes out and wins this, pretty much dead here. But I just looking at just where he's at price wise, you know, we just listed all the guys above him. I would much rather play them. I don't think he's even remotely close to the caliber of golfer that they are. Yeah, he's played well here, but you can't tell me that he's better than any of those guys, and even below him. I mean, Fleetwood hasn't been good, but I do think this is a course that could fit him. I think he's a better golfer than Corey Connors. Benny On, I mean, they're similar in some of the things that they do, but Billy Horschel and Noren with the run that they've been on recently, I'd almost rather play them. So it's really just probably the pricing and ownership that I'm going to be fading.
it's a much easier fade this week. I mean, you have options around Corey Connors, and
Yeah,
unless you're
absolutely.
really playing into the course history, it's again, it's not as huge of a flag as you planted last week.
Obviously. I just it sucked.
and
Just
again, my I just don't think you have to fade Connors. Like if it's a choice you want to make, it's a choice you want to make. All the guys you listed above, all the guys you listed below are, they are in that range. But I think with the way pricing is this week, you can get 2 or 3 of them in a lineup. So that's the only reason I'm cool, because you can kind of just build a lot of your lineups right here on this page. Like I just don't I don't know how you get away from them. But yeah,
well,
super not as
you
crazy
definitely
as
you definitely can fit them. You can fit 3 of these
yeah.
guys easily. But the problem is how many lineups are you playing that you're going to be able to play Hideki, Ludwig, Morikawa, Fitzpatrick, Spieth? There's not enough lineups to be able to fit all of them and have a significant amount of them in your lineups. Because if those guys, I mean, especially Matsuyama and Ludwig, if they're pushing 25, maybe even 30%, what are you going to play them in 1 or 2 lineups? That you have no leverage whatsoever. So can't play all these guys up here. So that's really all I'm saying with Connors is yes, you can easily fit them, but I mean, I'm not playing enough lineups where I'm going to have Connors plus all those guys up there above him.
Fair.
But if we go down, Dave, any thoughts on any of the other guys I brought up? Fleetwood, Benyon, Billy Horschel's obviously been on fire. He's probably going to get a good amount of ownership here, but
I like Billy Ho. Been playing good golf, doing a lot of the right things lately. Approach has been a little bit better than it was in the past. I like Brian Harmon, Adam Scott, Harris English, Russell Henley. I like this low 8K range, although I probably jumped way past what you guys were talking about. I prefer this range to the low nines.
yeah, for me, I'm going back and forth between Horschel and Noren because, as I said, I'm playing a lot of those guys up top, so I'm gonna have to skip over some guys in this range, and they both look like they're getting some pretty significant ownership. I definitely think Horschel has the higher ceiling. Maybe right now Noren has a safer floor, but even that's arguable with how good Horschel's been playing. So I do like the two of them. And then I think Adam Scott's going to go overlooked here. And it's a course where he's won. I think he also came 23rd after that. So it's a course he's played well. You know, he's played pretty well this year. The irons have been on fire. So I definitely like Adam Scott here too.
Yeah, I like
Mike,
him.
what do you?
I like
Go
him
ahead.
rounded into form around the Masters too. I'm not necessarily looking for him to win this week, but I got to bet on him for next week. So I'd like to see a good performance out of him. I think we lost
Mike,
one.
what are you thinking here? All right. Well, we're having a wonderful time here.
that's a good. I mean, you've got a lot of players in this tier. I don't know what ownership's looking like, but Adam Scott, Harris English, Tom Kim, Russell Henley. Tom Kim hasn't been playing great golf, but still a brand name. Even Ricky Fowler, who's just been playing absolutely atrocious lately. 8K is not a bad price for him, but he's over like 100-1 now on books. I mean, his game is just broken
Yeah,
again.
the DraftKings price and the betting odds do not match.
No, not at all. I mean, he's probably one of the bigger disparities in terms of pricing versus betting odds. I mean, it's well warranted. I mean, he's actually priced probably too high at the moment at 8K.
Absolutely. Yeah, I probably wouldn't even consider playing him if he was down at 7,300.
Yeah, but can you price him below Eric Cole, Akshay, and some of these other names here? I mean, it's probably just name recognition at this point.
Yeah, I do like Tom Kim for this course. Now, obviously, he had what was it, the flu at the Players, so you give him a pass there. Otherwise, hasn't really been playing great, but I do think it's a course that could fit him. So maybe worth a chance, and a lot of people probably won't be going there. So, Mike, what are you thinking in this lower 8K range?
I'm sure you guys mentioned like you know Adam Scott, Harris English. Like I don't need to cover those again. I'll go down to the lower, maybe high sevens. I really like Seabez, which scares me. It, he screws me every single time. It's actually incredible how much. Got a feeling about Eric Cole. Um, just a feeling, I don't know, Burrow whisperer type stuff. But I don't think because how much I like that upper, that not low 10 range, even some of the lower nines. I just don't think I'm going to be here much, honestly. I think I'm going to have to go down a little bit lower to kind of get that multiple, shares of that top end, like I was just talking about.
Yeah, I'll sprinkle in this area. I love Akshay. I love what I saw last week. 7,700 I think is a good price for him. I have made an outright on him at 55-1 with 6 places. Ninth in strokes gained ball striking, 12th strokes gained approach. He's got some distance off the tee. He's 11th in opportunities gained. Does a lot of what you like here. And we were talking about the good drives gained. He's ninth in that statistic in the field. So I like what he's doing. Actually been putting pretty well here too. So I like Bhatia quite a bit. Cole just, I don't know. He was one of the most consistent golfers on planet Earth. And just all of a sudden he looks like he is completely lost. So I get it, Mike. If you're having a feeling, I think it's fine if you wanted to play him. I'm a little worried about where his game is at. Keith Mitchell, I actually like quite a bit. Now, obviously, missed the cut last week. I was fine fading him, after the collapse at the Valspar, but now he's got a little bit of time off. Maybe that's exactly what he needed. He finished top 20 in 5 tournaments so far this year already. Over the last 24 rounds, he's first on approach, first in opportunities gained, sixth in strokes gained off the tee. So we want ball strikers here. He's striking the ball very well. I like Keith Mitchell quite a bit here. Dave, what are you thinking there?
A lot of what you guys just said, really about the same type of players. Keith Mitchell, I was part of the Valero collapse. I had an outright on him while I was on vacation too. So that was nice to check in on at the end of the day on Sunday while I was away. Aaron Rye's been playing pretty good golf. Like Mike said, Seabass, who I just seem to be getting wrong, just along the same way. I guess it's because we talk about him here. And Eric Van Rooyen is probably another name that I like here. He's just playing just really good golf of late. Really showing up on the top of leaderboards for the most part, gaining on approach week after week here. So he's a name from down here that I do like. I think I'm out on Eric Cole. I think all of the magic is kind of worn off on him. And as we get down to 7,300, I like Nikolai Højgaard. Feel like he's just been playing pretty good, consistent golf. Needs to put everything together, to win a tournament here. But he's a name that I do like to show up here. I think he's way more talented than the players around him. He is coming off 2 missed cuts, but played much better earlier in the season here.
Yeah, he hasn't been good recently, but I do think that this is a course that definitely fits his skill set. So I could definitely see it. I like Glover here too, 7,300. He's been playing pretty well this year. He missed 2 cuts this year, but otherwise made all 6 of his other tournaments, made the cut. Finished 11th most recently at the Valspar. He we know he's a great ball striker, but he was an absolute wizard around the greens there. He's gained strokes on approach in 7 of his last 8 tournaments, so gotta like that. And he's 4th in strokes gained around the green, 11th on approach, 16 in good drives, 25th in opportunities gained. So, his skill set should probably fit here pretty well. And his best finish here was a 4th place back in 2019. So he's played well at this course as well. So I do like Glover. Mike, what are you thinking down in the low 7s or high 6s?
I really like Hubbard. Probably not a shock there. Like, I just feel like he's value week after week. I'm not expecting him to win the tournament, but at this price, especially if I have to be down here, I'm just going to take that. I like Sam Ryder right there too. I think the Gimmer is due for a bounce back. He was playing really, really good at the beginning of the year. A couple bad weeks, couple little hiccups. I feel like he's got to find it again. Like I tend to believe this is, it's not coming back to earth. I think it's just a little, bump in the road type of thing. But yeah, I like most of that, right around 7, starting with Glover and then down to 69, 68. I think most of that range is very playable.
Yeah, and I like the call on Gim. This is what he does. He's a roller coaster. He's either missing the cut or coming T64 or top 20. So definitely like it, and his game should fit here. Obviously he's a great ball striker. He's good on par 5s. So I do like Gim, and after his recent performances, I don't think he's going to be that popular either. And then down further here in the 6Ks, like some of the old guys, I mean, Kuchar has just been a machine on this course. Obviously, he hasn't really been playing well this year, but he's never missed the cut here in 11 appearances. He's come top 10 4 times, finished 3rd, 2nd the last 2 years. So it's a course where he shows up every year. So I'm willing to throw a couple sprinkles of Kuchar in there, even though I usually don't play him. It just, this course, I don't know. There's something about it where he shows up. And same for Charlie Hoffman. It's just a course where he's not playing well, but every year he's going to show up and play well at a happy place. At 6,400, I think he's fine. Lost my voice there for a second. Dave, what are you thinking in the sixes?
And I'll even extend it out to the low sevens also. But I mean, once we start getting down here, I want to start looking at guys that are going to be really strong on approach. Doug Gim, you guys already talked about, but Victor Perez is 7,100. Approach game, very, very on point at the moment. Davis Thompson has some good finishes here recently. I mean, you're just looking for cuts to be made. Another guy really strong with his irons. And I had one more. Ryan Moore kind of makes me sick, but he's playing somewhat good golf, accurate off the tee. He's made his last 3 cuts, 31st in Houston last week. So he might make the player pool. Andrew Novak, really strong as well. And Bud Cauley, just guys that seem, again, I'm looking strictly at approach down here, which I think is just going to be, the most, important key stat to look at. So when I'm, dumpster diving, I want guys that are going to be, flushing it there.
Yeah. And Ryan Moore is a guy that I actually play quite a bit. He's one of the cheap guys that I throw into a good amount of lineups. Been playing a lot of them recently. It does look like he's probably going to push somewhere around 15% ownership down here, just with how well he's been striking the ball. So just something to keep in mind.
Yep, out. Completely out
Yeah.
of 15% Ryan Moore.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, by tomorrow, I could see it even being higher because it's just if you're making a model, if you're looking statistically, you said it, you're looking for guys that are good on approach down here, and he's second in the field over the last 24 rounds on approach. So, there's merit to it, but if he's going to be that highly owned, we know he can also be a volatile player, so it might be worth fading. I like the Novak call. I think I can go there. He's got a little around the green game too, so he can strike the ball good on approach, but if he does miss, he can get around these greens also, like the Bud Cauley call. I think Adam Svensson too is an all right ball striker. Hasn't really been playing well this year, but I do think it's a course that could potentially fit him. But Mike, what are you thinking in this range?
I like Ben Griffin. I feel like he's been playing pretty okay, considering he's Ben Griffin and everything. So, again, like you guys said, we're just trying to make cuts down here. I like Seamus. I think Seamus is another one. Like he's not doing anything special, but he's making cuts, and that I just need somebody to get me through to the weekend down here. You guys named. So I like Cauley. Moore is interesting. Kind of one of those weird names that if he's going to be in form, consider what's form for Ryan Moore. Might as well ride it while it's there. Again, cut makers. Give me ball strikers. Give me somebody who's going to keep themselves in play. Just somebody give me a shot.
Yeah, I like Joel Damon also. We're talking about strong approach games. He's been incredible over the past couple weeks. Missed the cut last week. I played quite a bit of him, but he was pretty popular last week, so probably keeps a good amount of people off, but was still hitting the irons well. So I don't mind going there. Obviously, he's a volatile player, but I do think he has a little bit of upside down here. And he's third in strokes gained approach over the last 24 rounds, second in opportunities gained, eighth in good drives gained. So he's got a lot of what you like for this course. And at only $6,100, I think it's actually a pretty good play. And he should be sub 10% after missing the cut last week. So don't hate it. Dave, you like anything stick out down here in the fives? I mean, it's going to be few and far between. Maybe a couple guys I'll take some sprinkles on, but what are you thinking here?
I mean, I don't want to really be a part of it, but a couple names to look at. Justin Lower, strong on approach recently, 28th last week, third in Mexico. Nothing, that impressive, but only 2 missed cuts in 2024. So he's been playing somewhat decent golf. And Dylan Wu, same thing, strong on approach, been gaining on approach most of his last rounds, coming off, made 3 out of his last 4 cuts here, and 28th of Valspar, 19th of the Players. So he has popped up in a good field, but that's only if really needed. They're just names. I don't know if I really endorse any of them.
Yeah, those are kind of the guys that I'm looking. I actually do think Dylan Wu is definitely in play. maybe, yeah, that's probably pretty much all I'm looking at down here. And really probably not going to have to dive down here too much. I mean, I would like to fit a good amount of the guys up top, but I'm not going to play a lot of lineups with both Hideki and Ludwig. I do think that might be a little bit popular. Might have a couple in some single entry, but not going to go crazy with that. So I don't think I'm going to be living too much in the 5K range. But Mike, what about you? Anything stick out to you down here?
Grayson Sig at 6, I think, is playable. Michael Kim at 5.8, I think, is playable. He actually played well the last month or so, barring a few, the players basically. Might have just been too big for him at the moment, but just a fan. So nothing, nothing. I don't want to be heavy down here at all. But I will say the 5K pricing is fucking dope. Like, am I the only one who thinks this is awesome?
I love it
Uh,
because
yeah,
it makes so many more decisions, and your lineup construction can just, even if you're playing Scotty like last week, 50% owned. Yeah, you're playing 50% owned, but there's a lot of different ways you can get different when there's this big of a range of pricing.
and some of these punts are gonna make a cut here and there, and sometimes that's all you need. And if you save, whatever, 25, 27, $3,000, in salary just by punting this one off and getting some random made cut where you can jam an extra dude or two, pause. That's just it adds so much to your lineup construction theory.
Yeah, but Mike, you're forgetting it's 2024. These guys aren't just making cuts. These are the best fucking golfers in the field this year.
Yeah,
And
no kidding.
that's also a good point for this field. I mean, there's not really brand names winning this tournament year after year. Spieth, yes. Connors is debatable whether he's a brand name, but when you look at some of these guys, I mean, your winner is probably coming from below 8,000 this week, potentially. If
Batia.
not, maybe.
But yeah, if we recap the betting board, I think we've exhausted the DraftKings. I have Ludwig at 17 to 1. I know a lot of people probably can't get that. I did get the boost on Bet Rivers. So I'd be comfortable with him at 11 if you want to go there. I think this is a course that fits him very, very well. And I think he can absolutely come out and win it. So I love him. I have Batia at 55 with 6 places. I am actually leaning towards either Morikawa or Hideki. Haven't really decided yet. Kind of want to take a little bit more time and figure that out. But I mean, Morikawa's number just looks way too good. He hasn't been playing well, and really it's the irons that have been letting him down, which is odd. But I do think that this is a course that he could play well at. So I do like him. And obviously, Hideki's been in incredible form. And oddly enough, for some reason, I have a feeling about Fleetwood. I know it's dumb. The guy never wins, but I think that this is a course that could definitely suit him. And this is a field that he could actually possibly get his first PGA win. So just considering that, I saw him floating around 35 ish. So might go there, probably even more so for the each way than the win, which I know that's probably not why you should be making outrights, but the each way would pay pretty good. So, David, what do you got so far as bets go?
I bid on Morikawa at 32 to 1. Price is just too good. And like you were saying, maybe this is the course that he can flip the switch at. So I'm on board. Max Homa, I took a boost up to 37 to 1. And I have Hoygaard at 80 to 1 with a top 5 each way.
Not bad. I think with how well Ryan Moore has been striking the ball, might maybe just do like a top 30 or a top 40 on him. I don't want to bet the outright. And then that'll be my exposure. Just fade him in DraftKings if he's going to be somewhere around 15% owned and just maybe put a placing bet on him. Mike, have you looked at anything betting wise?
Uh, I like Decky. It sucks that he's only 20, but I think that I could still get myself there on that. I like Adam Scott at 40. I don't know. I think this could be, I think that's not a bad number on him considering, form and
Absolutely.
course and all of that. Uh, And then honestly, you got a couple of dudes down here at the bottom that are going off at plus 500,000. I'll put $1 on that. Like if somebody gives you 500K, plus 500K, you take that bet. I don't care what the bet is. Like if you're going to give
Especially in
me
2024.
yeah, like you're going to give me 5,001. Like okay, I will throw $1 at that every single day of the week.
Fair enough. But that's going to do it for this week. Obviously, we had to get a little primer in for the Masters. Going to come back next week. We'll have a couple shows, some good ones. Also, I'm going to be writing up Live, all the golfers basically over there, that what they've been up to this year, because they're kind of out of sight, out of mind. Also, if you're watching this, you can check the channel. I did a quick little breakdown of Live Miami. So really, you should probably be paying attention to that if you're going to be investing in the Masters. Just whether you, regardless of how you feel about Live, you should probably know what those guys are doing if you're going to be betting or playing DraftKings next week. But Mike, what are your thoughts? Do you give a shit at all about what these guys have been doing, or?
No, not necessarily, but next week is one of like the 4 weeks of the year that I actually do give a shit what they're doing because they're playing, in the Masters. So, yeah, no, I'll check out the article just so because they're playing next week. But do I give a shit what they're doing over in Live? No, not at all. Just somebody clue me into how they've maybe been playing in their, Sunday, morning foursomes with their friends. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's literally why I was writing the article. I was like, usually I'll do like the top 50 in odds, 50 and under, and break down their recent form. But I was like, nobody's paying attention to these guys whatsoever. So I should just throw a quick little thing together of just what they've been up to. Just this way, somebody that literally doesn't give a shit about Live can just catch up real quick before the Masters. But Dave, any thoughts on Live this week?
Have you guys seen where Crusher's GC is? They're just absolutely blowing
Right.
away the rest of the field. They're up by like 50 points on the year. It's fucking amazing.
Is that a lot or a little?
A lot. They've got 100 points, and the next closest team is 58. And I don't know what any of that means. I want to see. I mean, they're players that it matters that they're playing well. Like Neiman got his way into the Masters by playing well. I think he's a player that has just been playing well in general on the Asian tour and like really grinding. Not having John Rahm win a live tournament yet is kind of concerning, but also not concerning. I don't care really who's doing what over there. If I don't care.
It's kind of
It's a short
concerning,
answer.
but
I
not
don't
concerning,
care.
but I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, we
it
saw
doesn't
it with
matter.
Cam Smith. We saw it with DJ. Even admitted it. He was like, "Yeah, I was just enjoying my money." Like, Rom just signed over there, so obviously, it could be a transition for him as well. And as the defending champion at the Masters, that's got a lot of obligations coming too. So that's going to be interesting to see how all of that carries into next week.
Yeah, the Brooks stuff last year actually was meaningful, and that win coming into the Masters kind of led for the run that he had in the majors. So if you're going to pay attention to any live tournament this year, wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but this was probably the week to at least for, prognosticating the Masters. Probably want to have guys that have played well, recently, meaning this week.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's good for this week, and we'll come back for the Masters. But Mike, any parting words?
I know we're talking golf, but got breaking football news. Chase Claypool is signing in Canada.
Okay.
Canada signed
Dave,
Chase Claypool. I thought you guys would be interested.
I'm more interested in Live Miami. Dave, any parting words?
I'm going to be doing some deep diving into how the High Flyers GC only has 2 points on the year somehow and are in dead last place in live.
I mean, Pat Mayo touched on it because literally this past weekend, I was, I'm writing this article of all these guys and just trying to find any information it's asinine. Literally, you can find that. You can find how the teams are doing. There's plenty of stats on that. But to find how these guys are individually doing is absolutely ridiculous. And I even said it on the quick little Live Miami breakdown that I did. I bet DJ to win 2 weeks ago because the odds were on FanDuel. I thought the tournament was that week. They do a terrible job of even promoting what it is. I didn't even know what it was. I literally thought I was betting the tournament that week, and it was still 2 weeks away. So it's an absolute disaster over there.
There's a team called Cleeks Golf Club that has Martin Keimer, Richard Bland, Adrian Moronk, and Calais Samuja on there. Who the fuck cares about any of those things?
I know a couple of those guys.
Yeah, they used to be a couple of, PGA players that went off into oblivion and now nobody cares. But the team aspect
Martin
is
Keimer won like 2 majors out of nowhere.
He's the
back
team
in the
captain, obviously, Mike. But, there's so much potential with team golf, just not this way.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
That's
And
the-
honestly,
they just
that was
fucked
one thing that I did see looking into everything, because they played the Blue Monster at Doral for the team championship, and the way they actually did that was kind of cool. Like, there was different team events and they incorporated different shit. That was pretty cool. But just what they're doing every week it makes no sense. So there's ways you can incorporate it, but the way they're doing it is just, it's pretty dumb.
It's okay to be different, but not for the sake of being different, which is why you
Absolutely.
don't fade Scotty at a tournament like last week.
Yeah, you could fade him, and then you just lose the same amount of money you would lose even if you played him.
There's always next week.
They
There
just
is
need to
always next
figure it out, because both tours suck. Like, both suck right now. Like, they just need to figure it out.
And honestly, that's part of the reason why I dove into Live this week. I mean, mainly, obviously, it's because of the Masters, but the other thing is there's actually good golfers that are winning their tournaments. So if I can bet on those guys and actually win bets, I'm going to give it a shot. But that's going to do it for this week. We will be back next week with the Masters. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. You guys excited for the Masters?
Of course. Yeah, it's my second favorite week here.
Yeah, maybe we can get a little Bob Costas and
Bob Costas, man. Hello, friends.
All right, I will talk to you guys next week, but that is going to do it. Obviously, check out theHelmSports.com. I will have the Live right up over there. The Hardcore Parkour should be up there for the Valero by the time you are watching this. I already have the course preview out there, so check that out. As I said on the channel, have a little Live Miami breakdown, so you could check that as well. But that's going to do it for this week. As always, thank you for listening. I'm your host, Derek Helm, and remember,
Just have fun out there.